Hi everyone and welcome to Free Devs and a Maybe. This is the 7th podcast in our series. For anyone who's... Is it?
Yeah, it's our 6, sorry.
Six.
Wow.
Do you want to start again or carry on?
We'll carry on, yeah, whatever. If you've not listened to our podcast before, basically this is aimed at absolute beginners or just enthusiasts who are just happy to listen to what we chat about. So this week is going to be a little bit different. I think we did talk last time. We said that we might be talking about object-oriented programming in this podcast, but me and my 3 podcast colleagues, we actually met up this week for a bit of a social. We kind of decided that we're going to put that back a few weeks because maybe we're just taking it a little bit too quick, and there's some other stuff we'd like to talk about first. But this week, we actually want to discuss a few more ad hoc things, a couple of things that have come up recently, and we feel that it's the right time to discuss them here. So this week is going to be a bit of a rant, but stick with us because there will be some really good content. It won't be a waste of your time. So we'll start the usual way, and I'll go around and ask how everyone's week were. So let's start with you. We will start with Ed, so we'll start with Lou this week. Lou, how's your week been?
Hello. Good evening. Well, thankfully the week last week only started on Thursday, but saying that, it was still a shock to the system.
Yeah.
The first time I had to set the alarm for I don't know what, 10 days, and I was more than used to having a good old lie-in. But straight back into work, working on a big site which has been going very well. Using my framework, which has been good so far, so good. Not too many issues gone wrong with it so far. So it's been all good fun. What else have I been doing? Over the Christmas break, I've been doing quite a few tutorials and stuff, and I finally managed to get a site live of my own.
Nice.
So there is a blog site which I have now put live.
So what's the URL for that?
It's lkainswebdeveloperblog.co.uk. There's only one post on it at the moment, but I'll kind of discuss what I used to make that when we get. I assume we're going to do our usual plugins bit of the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was going to say, obviously,
you got Discus in there as well.
Yeah. It's good. It's good actually. That whole
Lou inspired me to use Discus. It is awesome. That's one thing I definitely want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to chuck it on mine because I was listening to a different podcast this morning. I'm not going to give them free publicity.
Traitor.
Yeah, because obviously we're way better than them. But apparently Discus can sit nicely on top of WordPress comments anyway. So.
Oh, no, can you import them then? Or does it just...
From what I can understand, I've not actually properly looked into it yet.
It supports quite a few platforms.
Yeah, you can install it, and then it'll basically sync up the Discus comments with your WordPress comments. So say in like 3 months' time you actually didn't like Discus and you don't want to keep it, you can just get rid of it. And
that is cool.
Yeah, so
they've actually thought of everything, haven't they?
Absolutely, yes.
One of those things.
With that and get that sorted sometime over the next couple of days, I think.
How long does it take to add that to a site then?
Pardon?
How long does it take to add?
Oh, it's so easy. I did it for both my own blog and then also the 3 Devs blog. And literally, there's like, as Fraser was saying, like there's loads of integration with other things. I'm sure Lewis will go on about what he was, he'll go on about like Octopress and stuff and how to do it on there. Yeah. But like the raw thing to do is just like, it's just a JavaScript code snippet pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's a JavaScript code snippet and then like a comment div. And all it does is create an iframe. But the nice thing is, I'm sure you've all had this. You've had like the Facebook social widgets and stuff, and they just destroy the page pretty much.
Yeah.
They overtake the page. But with this, it seems to like work well with the parent width and like the parent height and like the styling around it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just used the good old fashioned Twitter widget on the right hand side of it for the time being. I haven't had much opportunity to play around with the layout yet, but I'm working on a local version at home to try and style it up a bit. So hopefully that'll be good.
So it's good. You say you've done this on Octopress?
Yeah, Octopress.
It's Octopress because I've heard of it, but is this the one that's the flat uses flat text files rather than a database, or is that something?
Yeah, it uses Markdown files.
Right.
It's just dead simple. This is a really nice command line facility with it, where you just create posts on it nice and simply. It's brilliant. And as I say, it just creates the files, and you just write the files in Markdown format. That's not something I'd used before, but it's incredibly simple to learn. And it's just really, really easy to get something up and running, and all the complicated stuff like organising stuff into categories. That's not even difficult. You just literally in the what it's called. What's it called? YAML front matter. matter at the top of the page, there's like a list of sort of parameters like the page title and date and comments, true or false, that sort of thing. And on there, you literally have categories. And inside of square brackets, you just literally type in the categories you want to allocate them to, and it just dynamically generates them as you type them in and save the page. So it's the whole template of the blog is completely taken care of. So it's so simple and nice. And I quite like just the design of it now. Anyway, just the way it comes out of the box.
The code highlighting looks really nice, doesn't it?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, there's like nice little plugins built into it for code highlighting and stuff like that. You can nice and easily get things like line numbers and highlight certain lines of code and import code files and however you want to use it, really. I've only written one post so far on it, but it's nice to be blogging again. I'm certainly going to be making the most of that because
you used to blog quite a bit. Well, you did have a bit of an online presence beforehand, didn't you?
Back in my golf days, I did about 4 or 5 blogs actually to kind of track my progress through my golfing career back in the day. But I always really did enjoy blogging, and for some reason the last 3-4 years I stopped doing it. But it is nice to be doing it now, and I'm not going to make it all entirely web related. But
have you got links to your old blogs for the show notes? Because that'd be awesome.
I've just found one actually.
SEO, there you go. You see.
Are you happy with reading this out?
Possibly. I trust you. Go ahead.
It's lewiscanesgolf.blogspot.com /XXX. The XXX bit isn't in there.
Damn you, Fraser.
No, they're really good posts. I really enjoyed them. That's why I was trying to egg like there was on like get a blog, just get a blog. If
the people listening genuinely want to read some of these old blogs that I wrote, if you type in Lewis Kane's golf blog, there's a couple there.
You've got a whole domain for it as well. Lewis
Kane's golf. Oh yeah, blogger I used for that. So you get a domain like lewiscanesgolf.blogspot.com.
Okay.
It's dead simple it's a lot like WordPress, to be honest. But yeah, down at lewsblog2006.blogspot.com. That was one of the first ones. So yeah, if anyone wants to read about golf stuff, there you go.
Boom.
That's my former life before my web days.
Nice.
Battling Tiger Woods head to head at the US Open.
Yeah, and losing.
I want to ask you about your framework, but I guess we'll leave it for a little bit because that's one of the things we're going to discuss in a bit anyway, right? So
sure.
But
that leads in nicely to the other stuff. So yeah, go ahead.
Come back to that for sure. Fraser, how's your week been?
It's been good, thanks. Have we had a podcast since Christmas yet?
No, this is our first.
Okay. So Christmas and New Year's gone. So for Christmas, what did I do for Christmas? I spent half of it at home with my housemates and having dinner, and then went over to the missus in the evening. And then I was off, I think, just trying to think when I was off, it's all gone so quick now. I was in Monday, Tuesday last week, which was the 2 days before New Year and the 2 days after as well on Thursday, Friday, so I did those. And then, New Year's Eve went out for a couple of beers. I was going to stay home by myself because I couldn't really be bothered to do anything. And then I kind of had the sudden thought of, well, hang on, if I do that, then it makes me a massive loser. So I ended up going out and succumbing to peer pressure. But it was a good night. It was a good night.
Yeah.
And not too hungover, and then we all went out for beers on Saturday night. So I guess we'll get into that in a little bit.
Sounds good. I look forward to that. Web Guru Ed.
Hello.
Good week.
It's been great. Yeah. It started off well. It's only Monday, so it's been a great week. It's been a great week. I was able. This is like the first one for 2014.
So good month.
A good month so far, yeah, definitely. I was lucky. I've just got back to like freelance stuff now. I was able to have a couple of weeks off because the deadline's working pretty well.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty good Christmas really. I had like a free house, which was quite nice. My mum and dad were off gallivanting around, enjoying themselves on cruises. So I had a couple of mates around and stuff. And did you know, right? There's a Monopoly Kent edition.
Yeah.
Okay, well that kind of burnt me then because it's awesome. Okay, it's like you can get Tommy's Castle now. When you're drunk at like 1 a.m, it's the best thing in the world to do.
Yeah,
even better than setting up a Laravel 4 website.
Well, this is the thing. We need to
imagine doing that.
Oh, Mickey, crazy. But yeah, so other than that, really, it's been some work, and then also I've been able to do a bit more blogging and stuff, and played around with a bit of C, did a bit of like linked list data structures and all that funky stuff, and they just discussed stuff, which was awesome, like being able to integrate that. I mean, I was expecting it to be a pain, but they just made it so simple, which is just what you want. And also, it's the great thing about it is because we're all using now flat files and stuff like Octopress, it doesn't need a database backend or anything. So really, you just sign up for it, put it on your site, and it seems to be able to read the URL and everything, can do all that for you, which is great. Before Christmas, also, I was able to like upload all the podcasts to YouTube, which was a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Because YouTube don't make it easy to upload podcasts.
This was after my first failed attempt.
Oh, they really don't, though. I mean, me and Lou were there just trying to, work this thing out. But you can't upload audio on its own. You have to upload audio with video. So obviously, we're not a video podcast, So what we ended up having to do was, fortunately, I did a little bit of research and I was able to like cobble together a couple like solutions and then build my own one that used FFmpeg. And what it did was actually use the raw audio, and then we just sent it like a still image that was just the album art, cover art, and upload that, which was then an MKV file. But it was just one of those things where you think, a lot of people upload their podcast to YouTube. Surely YouTube will make this easier.
I couldn't find a decent tool to convert it to the right file format.
Oh,
I going all the way through the Mac App Store.
I blogged about it, and it's this ridiculous command that you have to do for FFmpeg. But FFmpeg is like literally the tool for converting stuff. It was what Handbrake and stuff used to back by it.
Handbrake, I remember.
Yeah, and it's all backed by FFmpeg pretty much, and all this. So it is awesome, but again, it's like confusing to use, and there's so many commands and options and stuff. But fortunately, a couple of blog posts helped me out, and I was able then to build up a solution, which was quite cool.
Nice. I should have asked actually, did anyone get anything like exciting for Christmas, like tech related preferably, but anything at all?
I did, but it's pretty sad.
You don't want to repeat it?
I saw the picture of this, Ed.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
I wondered if it was like a new set of coasters or something.
I saw this.
Books, pretty much, yeah. Donald Knuth's Art of Computer Programming. All 4 editions, all 4 books of them.
Wow,
I know, that's sad. Anyway, Mickey, you got something though, didn't you?
Something.
Directing, I like that. Directing.
Reflecting.
No, deflection.
Deflection, that is the word. Yeah, equally sad, but I've at least got an excuse, I guess, that I needed it. But yeah,
I need it. It's like oxygen. But anyway, carry on.
No, I got a book on concurrency programming. So,
are you enjoying it? Because last time we were talking on Saturday, you were saying you're enjoying it and everything. Have you been able to have a little chance to read a bit more?
Not really. I've read the first chapter, so I kind of understand
synchronized and volatile and all that funky stuff.
Yeah, I understand it in. I'll tell you what. I'll explain it in pseudo terms because for anyone listening, might better. But yeah, basically the whole idea of it for anyone who's not done programming using concurrency and multi-threads is basically the idea is that if you use the example of say you're cleaning your house and then like halfway through you get thirsty and your name's not Fraser, so you don't go and get a beer, you go for a cup of tea and you put the kettle on, and then whilst the kettle's boiling, do you stand there and wait for the kettle to boil, or do you do something whilst it's boiling? So that's like the analogy. So with a computer program, whilst it's doing one thing, if it gets to a point where it's going to take a while and it's just not really doing much, and the user can't really see what's going on, you could get it to go and do another thing. So
watch kettle never boils. That's the closest I could get with that one.
That is deep.
Yeah, sorry. It's Monday night.
But yeah, that was my geeky little present. But yeah.
How are you doing though, Mick? Because we've gone round and now it's back to you, sir.
I'm good. As you know, I'm just decorating my house from top to bottom at the moment. I've literally taken a week holiday to do just that. And
how fun is that?
It is.
Great holiday.
It's the most tedious thing in the world.
I mean, what time did you wake up this morning then?
8 o'clock.
And then what time did you finish? Well, just probably now.
Literally 20 to 7.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, pretty...
It'll be worth it in the end, though. You'll have a lovely painted house.
Yeah.
Was it like that episode of Gavin and Stacey where you you tile in the bathroom, but then you have a little nap in the... You have a nap in the bath and you wake up and it's 6 hours later.
That's a great episode.
I wish. But
other TV shows are available. Do we have to say that? We're not a BBC, are we?
But yeah, to answer your question, basically doing that and then Java assignment and Java exam coming up. So
because you've had Christmas, you're back on the 20th, isn't it?
Yeah, for
You've got a
uni.
bit of time off to do coursework and revision.
Yeah, that's it. So I am basically revising inheritance and error handling at the moment. So yeah, it's good stuff, but yeah, it's just a bit knackering at the moment. So yeah. So this is probably a good time to say if anyone's got any plugins or anything like that they want to plug at the moment.
I actually came across something, or something was brought to my attention. I've not had a chance to actually use it myself, but one of my colleagues at the office was using it.
Yeah.
It's the big kind of debate at the moment, or not the big debate, but a big kind of topic of discussion seems to be the adaptive images problem. My colleague at work came across and showed me this fantastic thing that he's found. It's literally just called adaptive-images.com. And it's really kind of simple the way it works when you think about it. Like, it's got a script which actually does the resizing, and then you've got some entries to put in your htaccess file. So what it does is, when the browser sends the HTTP request to request the image that it's looking for, the htaccess file takes the image request, and rather than just sending the image back, it sends it first to the PHP file, which then checks to see if there's a resized version of that because the browser header that it's sending with the request, it knows exactly what dimensions image you're going to be looking for. And if you don't have one that's, I think it works it out like if it checks the original image, and if the original image's width is bigger than the width that it's received through the HTTP headers, then it resizes the image to whatever you want to specify. So you can specify different breakpoints and stuff. Then it's
like an alternative to Tim Thumb, that kind of thing.
I'm not sure what Tim Thumb is, to be honest.
Oh, it's like a PHP class that you can apply to image tags, and you just literally pass in like width and height and stuff to the end of the tag, and then it just dynamically does it. But it's quite temperamental.
Plug this thing in, and it'll into an existing site, and it'll automatically take care of that for you. So you don't
really
have to do
cool.
That's I have to look at that.
Anything at all with your image tags, and it just looks absolutely fantastic, and it caches the images as well, so it doesn't have to resize them every single time you.
Nice.
That looks really good. Yeah,
it does look really, really cool.
I would. The only thing I'd say, that's really boring me to say this, but like from a business perspective, like, would you be charging clients more to add this service, because it's kind of above and beyond. Okay, if you quoted for a responsive site, I guess it's all part and parcel, but even then, it's you could argue that a responsive site, it changes the display and everything, or the way the layout is handled, but it's not. I don't know if responsive, it's within its scope is to handle different image sizes to get the server to load the right image.
That's the thing, because it's kind of like a blurry line, isn't it? Like, even in terms of when you're quoting for a website, like, should you quote? Because should the responsive be part of the quote, or should you say, you can have responsive as well, or you can have responsive and this, but it's going to cost you X amount more? Or I guess I guess it comes up to personal preference, really, and whatever your client wants to go with.
This looks like a great solution,
because people always say that when you put a site live, it works fine on my laptop, blah blah blah, but it doesn't work properly on the iPad or on my mobile or something like that. But it's it's completely different in itself. So I definitely think it should be charged separately.
Yeah, that's
it's a whole different.
Our job has gone from creating one website to look fine on Windows XP and Windows on IE7 kind of thing, to like now it has to encapsulate all these different devices and browsers, and it's just our job's bigger, so I think we should be quoting accordingly, because it's kind of what's expected to provide for all these things.
I just think
there's no fixed like width anymore, is there? It's not that I'm getting 1024 by 7, 6.8. It has to be every single pixel. So it's kind of like you're making a website that really is multiple websites and having to adjust dynamically and fluidly. And
I just think it's interesting because in my opinion, it seems like with the web industry now, there's like a race to the bottom with price, especially when you got like TV adverts, like get a site for £1
1&1 and stuff like that. When the foot is on, that really cheapens our product.
And yet, our job is getting harder and harder because
like WordPress, I could do it in WordPress, and it's like, well.
She's reminded me of a far less coherent conversation we had about this on Saturday night.
I haven't spawned once yet.
And Anyone else got any interesting plugins at all? Or?
I've got one. I've got 4 actually.
4?
Well, the first one we've already talked about is Octopress for blogging. I mean, the best blogging platform that I've found is obviously more aimed at developers who are going to be writing the actual code for the blog using Markdown files. But that's very, very good. And alongside the Markdown structure is a Mac app called mooapp.com. If you go to mouapp.com, it's a nice little Mac app on there, which you can just write your Markdown code in one box on the left, and it automatically translates it in real time on the right hand side, so you can see it as you're writing it. So I found that very helpful.
Nice.
And then another brilliant thing that I've started using this is from the Chrome App Store. Is if you go to a website called tin.cir. Oh God, I'll say that again. tin.cr. So tin.cr. This is a really cool extension, which basically, when you inspect an element on your page using the console, you'll get this this Tinker thing come on at the end, and you can load your style sheet into there. So literally, whenever you make whatever changes to your CSS file in the console, it just dynamically updates the file. So you don't have to keep going back and forth.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
The amount of time you go, like, I have to copy and paste back, or you refresh, or Chrome,
Well, you're constantly going from one to the other, aren't you?
That is amazing.
Yeah, I'm adding that right now. I like
I
it.
don't know the name of it, though.
Do I win a prize for plug-in of the week or anything?
CR.
Yeah,
That's
CR,
the annoying name for it.
Well,
Tinker.
you shouldn't domain and you hate Croatian people.
no, just tin.cr. It's like the name of it, not Croatians.
Oh, it wouldn't even be Croatia, would it? What would CR
Czech Republic?
Czech Republic. Yeah,
maybe.
wow.
Oh, would that be CZ Switzerland, isn't it? No, CH is Switzerland.
Any Croatian people listening, please feel free to get in touch.
It is Costa Rica or Costa Rica. Well,
right.
you're wrong.
Oh, yeah, suddenly you're on a complete opposite side of the world.
Hey, we're good, don't you know? We know our top level domain.
The only issues I've had with it so far, because I've also started messing around with SAS this week, which is obviously that's what everyone should be doing. I now realise, and I'll be doing that sort of forever from now on. But
so much nicer in that than it is in CSS.
yeah, it does support SAS, and you can get it to work with SAS, but I haven't quite managed to crack that yet.
Oh, it actually compiles it all for you and stuff.
Yeah, you can.
Wow.
Yeah,
Live reload as well.
Sorry.
Live reload as well.
Yeah, all of that.
Wow.
But
It uses as your development environment.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are my main discoveries this week. I think that covers everything.
Could you? So you said you started using SAS. Obviously, don't want to go into too much detail because we'll probably do a podcast on it at some point. But
yeah,
how have you found it, and what's the general process of getting set up with it?
Well, basically, I think the website is saslang dot.
Yeah.
Whatever. Hold on. Let me get the link up. Saslang, and then you just basically you install it. I think is it a Node package? Node.js.
Ruby.
Oh, it's Ruby. Sorry, yeah. So you use Ruby. You just get that installed on your computer, and then you just start using it that way. I mean, all the documentation's on the website, but I really like it because obviously one of the problems with CSS is it's not dynamic, is it? So by using this, you're able to declare variables, and then you've only got to change like a color in one place that's going to be applied throughout your style sheet and stuff like that. And it's I mean, it makes writing CSS a lot faster.
You really would hope they would add that, wouldn't you? That type of functionality. Variables and CSS. I mean, I know it goes that divide of like, is it adding function stuff, but simple variables would be really good for like the dry principle.
Yeah, exactly.
I must admit, this is on my list of things to look into. I've used Less for a few years now, and I'd have to say Less does everything that I need it to, but listening.
There's not a massive amount of difference, to be honest. I've looked at that one as well. They both do pretty much the same thing. It's probably just one of those kind of personal preference.
The other thing I think SAS has that Less doesn't is Compass.
Right.
It's kind of like a library, like a framework library type thing.
Yeah, so you can
that's kind of like what SAS gives you.
You can get like your reset library imported in there nice and easy and stuff like that using that, can't you?
Yeah, and like the IE stuff and the prefixing and all that funky stuff, I think. And be simplified by it. But yeah, I mean, again, it's preference. You've got like Starless as well or something, I think, is another one.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There are quite a few.
Okay. Yeah,
and another thing,
website now, because before they had a horrible looking website, didn't they?
Yeah.
For years, it was just like horrific compared to the Less website. Because I think the Less website's really, really nice. And to be honest, that's one of the reasons that I'm using Less rather than SAS, just because it's got a nicer website.
I agree with that. Actually, looking at it now, though, it's quite nice, isn't it? Responsive.
It does look alright, but it doesn't really do much though. Like if you
no.
What about the PHP website? Which has been updated, in fairness. So we would be nice. Oh, do you? I don't mind it as much as I did. I mean, it was awful, wasn't it? It was definitely Web 1.0.
Web 1.0.
Web 1.0 or 0.5 or something.
Have you heard anyone refer to the web as Web 2.0 or Web 3.0 in the last couple of years?
Not in a couple of years. Back in the day, though, it was the thing, wasn't it? And you had like the what was it? The little stars that looked like they're glowing. Like, oh,
yeah. I remember when Web 3.0 was like one of the big buzzwords, and then I had a meeting with a potential client, and he was like, "I don't want to make the website Web 2.0. I want to make it Web 3.0
with extra awesomeness."
It doesn't mean anything.
It's like, no, I'll make it 4.0.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like saying I want this, but better.
Oh, that should have been the name of our podcast. That would have been absolutely brilliant.
It's 3.0.
Oh man.
Have you? One thing I did see, is the Epic PHP T-shirt, madeinproduction.com. Just saw that on Twitter an hour ago.
Yeah.
The little story behind that. Zach Zietmiller and Phil Sturgeon made it, and it's a funny T-shirt. It was all about this rant. I don't know, a couple of years ago, there was this massive rant about PHP. Again, we've got all the haters for PHP, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that today, actually. But there was this one like little phrase from it that you say, like, you pull out a hammer, but to your dismay, it is a claw part of both sides. Still serviceable, though. I mean, you can hit nails with the middle of the head holding it sideways. So that's kind of taking the mick out of PHP, that it really is a jack of all trades. It doesn't really do anything right. But then this guy made this really awesome T-shirt, which is just the double claw hammer.
Nice.
And it's sad, and it's geeky, and Mick, it's your next T-shirt to roll around your Kent with.
So have you bought it yet?
I haven't bought it. I'm going to buy it. I will. It is awesome. The anti-PHP rants are funny as hell.
That kind of leads us quite nicely on, actually. But did anyone else have anything else they wanted to?
Sorry, I've got one more thing. I'm really sorry.
No, it's fine.
Today, this is a question, actually. What do you use for your code highlighting on your sites?
Octopress now.
Syntax highlighter. I think.
What do you mean code highlighter? Like code formatting within blog posts?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I've got a little plugin on, because mine's on WordPress, and I don't mind that it's on WordPress. I like WordPress. Let me try and work out what it's called, though.
I've used highlight.js, which has been quite nice.
Yeah, that's one I used to use quite a bit, and I had used it before, like, for quite a while. How about you, Mickey? What do you use?
I was just looking now. I only know it as Syntax Highlighter, but it's by Alex Gorbachev.
I think. See, there's a couple, isn't there? Like front end ones. There's like Highlight.js. I know there's Google Code Prettifier.
Yeah.
I've used that one as well. Yeah,
and then also you've got Syntax Highlighter. But the one problem I have with all these is that because I've started blogging more now, I'm coming into like these corner edge cases where, like, in certain cases, like with Java enumeration types, enum types and everything, or some command, like bash commands, it doesn't style them the right way.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I've got to find one that works, and it has to, there must be one that will style it and do everything for me. And the thing was like, when Lewis was talking about Octopress and stuff again, I had a look at that. I'm like, it uses Jekyll. And I was like, back in the day, I used a bit of Jekyll. And I was like, Jekyll uses pigments. And I was like, why does it go all to the effort of using a Python? Because pigments is written in Python. Yeah. So it's going to all the way to the effort of actually using Python and making like a wrapper around, Ruby wrapper around it to be able to actually use it. And the reason why it does it is because it's the best. It's a server-side one, so it's actually on the server you put it. But it has an awesome command line interface, and it just does. It highlights everything. I can now understand why they actually went to the effort to use it and stuff. But the one trouble was, of course, I'm using a PHP app.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm using a PHP app. But so what I ended up doing instead was I actually made a small wrapper around it function that actually spawned off a child process, and it then just called the pigments command line. I've blogged about it and stuff. But yeah, it's just It's the best. It's the best I found Pigments. But
Okay.
you can. It's not because it's written in Python. Doesn't mean you can't use it in other languages like PHP.
Okay, so we can put that in the show notes
Check
as
that
well.
out.
Oh, that's quite good. I'll have to give that a check out. So, should we move on?
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess if I just explain to our listeners, basically, we did have a little social night out the other night, just a chance to really hook up because we've not all been out for drinks for a while. But we also, but one of the things we wanted to do was just kind of have a bit of a review of how the podcast series was going, and a couple of things have come out of that, and one, like I say, was perhaps maybe some of the things we've said have been a bit perhaps maybe too advanced for where we are at the moment, and perhaps we haven't looked at some procedural PHP as much as we should have, even though it's quite hard to talk about on a podcast without any kind of visual aid. So that's a difficulty, but perhaps we'll try and have a look at that a little bit more. But that kind of led us on to how we would expect an absolute brand new PHP developer to start, where to start in an age where if that developer buys a web magazine, the first thing they're probably going to see on the front page is something like a new framework's just come out. Learn this framework. This is the best framework. You should be using this. Blah blah blah. And basically, I think if we start off there, and perhaps even if Lou, if you're happy, perhaps to talk about what you experienced this week and how you felt about that. Really, I guess.
Sure. It's never kind of that easy to kind of explain the situation, but you know, I take it we all kind of follow the same kind of people on Twitter, and we see the kind of to and fro's that they all have, and some of it gets quite heated, doesn't it? And it seems bizarre to me, and I have unfollowed quite a few people this week. But one of the main things that's sort of come up this week, there's a blog post written. I'm not going to say who it was by or anything like that, but it was basically, as you were saying, Mike, it was largely aimed towards Laravel, and sort of saying to people, you know, stop writing all these kind of packages that only work for one framework and not for everything. And it kind of all escalated from there, and it kind of struck a chord with me because I'm kind of I don't at this particular moment in my career understand why everyone's looking to use a package for everything and trying to find something that someone else has made rather than, you know, trying to use their own skills that they've learned themselves as a developer, you know, to try and come up with their own solutions and their own kind of toolkit, you know, whether it's the best or the worst bit of code you've ever written in your life, you know, it's still going to be a valuable learning resource to you one way or another. And I kind of wrote quite a lengthy comment on this blog post, which was a bit upsetting afterwards because it appears that it was the only comment there that didn't get responded to. But I thought I made some good points in there that, you know, I'd like to discuss with you guys and see what your thoughts are. So, you know, are you happy for me to maybe read a couple of paragraphs from this post that I wrote?
Go for it.
Cool. Okay. I won't read the whole thing because it was quite lengthy. So let's go from here. So, blah blah blah. I have. This is me now reading my post. I have recently developed real issues, concerns with the idea of using a mainstream framework because I think this may disrupt my learning process. I'm not too sure that the use of third packages or libraries, etc., is always the best idea for me. The best reason for that being that if something breaks, I could suddenly be in trouble and at the mercy of things like the quality of the documentation and even my own ability sometimes. I'm not ashamed to admit that at my stage of learning, I have to be very aware of this possibility. To date, I have used CodeIgniter quite extensively, more so than any of the others, and when the realization came to me that this framework may be effectively dying soon, it dawned on me that if I'm only as good as the framework that I use, then this cannot be a good thing. Suddenly, I will be in a position where I'm a developer who can only write in quote-unquote CodeIgniter, but I may have forgotten some of the important vanilla PHP stuff. This is why for the past 2 months I've been attempting to build my own framework and have begun utilising it in live projects, as it gives me the chance to continue to build it up further during a live project. I get to see it break and then instantly get feedback about where I may have gone wrong, and then the opportunity to improve as a developer comes by fixing those issues. I'll read one more paragraph and then we'll kind of open it up. So then I've said the learning process during this time has been extremely valuable. And I think that it has helped me develop my own skills far more than using any far more than using library after library from Composer, for example, which, although is very simple and quick and efficient most of the time, it's never been reassuring to me to be using someone else's code that perhaps either A, I don't fully understand myself, or B, that I wouldn't feel comfortable debugging. And that kind of captures my whole perspective on this whole culture that there seems to be, that everyone's trying to find a package that someone else has written. I don't know if you guys kind of share that view, or...
I've definitely got my opinion, but I've been talking a lot, so let's... Ed, Fraser, one of you two, you shoot.
I agree completely. That's pretty easy to say, isn't it? I suppose, expanding on that, though, I mean, it is a tough one in the sense that it's a double-edged sword where, okay, so you want me to learn something, but you then don't want me to write any code. You just want me to be using the packages, really, and understand how they work, but without actually writing any of the code. And I mean, and I'm sure, like, you're like me. I learn by having a look what's going on. I need to know what's going on. I need to write it myself, even if it's a simpler version of it. If I know that I understand that, then I have the confidence in myself that when I use that library, I'll be able to do it. There are certain libraries that I don't, have that much interest in actually ever making, and I always do just rely on them. I mean, stuff like, what is it? Like, not car payments, I suppose you would actually care. Like the GMAP one, like the one that Lewis was talking about a couple of weeks ago. Now, GMAP is a pain, and there's a lot of flags and a lot of funny stuff, but some guys gone, to the effort to do that and make it great. If it goes wrong, I'm sure we're confident enough in our JavaScript skills at this time to actually have a look into it, or maybe even just move to another one. Now, I know that moving to it's that whole debate of, well, you're just moving to another one and hacking that around. But at the same time, it's one of those things where how much time would it take me to actually make something? And this guy's already made it. It's been tried and tested in production by a lot of other people. It must work. A couple of years ago, when I was first getting into JavaScript and stuff, I looked into jQuery and I decided, well, I'm going to make my own little framework that's based a bit off jQuery. So I got not everyone wants to do this, but I got the uncompressed source of jQuery and I had a look at it and stuff because I was really interested in it and everything and how it works. And I made my own little framework and everything, and similar to what Lewis is doing today with the PHP one. I never had the chance to actually use it in production, but I'm sure I would have used it in production for certain things because I would be confident that it's my code and I understand. It also allowed me to get into the whole thing of how buggy IE is and etc. etc. But then it also allows me then to pick up jQuery, pick up Mood Tools, pick up an MVC framework in a JavaScript and stuff, and have a look and see how they do it. And be confident that I know if there's comes a time when I need help with it, there'll be enough people who use it, but also I could, if I need to, go in and have a look myself. Now, again, I'm talking rambling on, but what Lewis did say was very, very wise, which was, you have to, do you really want to, I mean, like the Laravel code is a great project. And, I use it in production. I use it for a client. I get a big client project now. I'm using 4.1. So I was able to update it and everything, and it's a great project. It's very Java-y in the sense it's been abstracted a lot. And I don't mean Java in that it's a Spring application type thing. It's got a lot of very good stuff that you can learn. But the trouble is, it goes from this thing of just picking up PHP how I picked up PHP, and I'm sure how you all picked up PHP, with just having a simple function and a simple thing, to going, okay, well, you need to understand facades and service providers and stuff. Or if you don't understand that, you need to have good documentation and literally just be like, oh, help, that's another thing. Sorry. So it's the whole thing of, do you know jQuery or do you know JavaScript? Well, you know JavaScript, but you understand jQuery's framework. But a lot of people get jQuery and JavaScript. They think, oh, no, but that's a jQuery thing. No, it's all written in JavaScript. Yeah. So I think actually the JavaScript world is more of a problem because it's been more of a pronounced problem because more people use frameworks. But as I say, it's coming to light now, and in the PHP world, where a lot more people are using these big projects with new dependency managers and stuff, and it's like, well, yeah, it's that learning is a great thing, but because you're having such big projects and stuff, that you probably don't need everything. You're literally, you're throwing the kitchen sink at it pretty much. You're not doing, you're just overcomplexing things with certain things, or maybe this is another thing. So. And I don't want to, I'm not having to go at Laravel at all because I love it. But there was one thing where say, so they wanted to do renaming table columns. So table columns you rename and stuff. So what they did was they imported there was this doctrine. So doctrine is this object relation map, which is just this funky database thing. So it's funky database class and a lot of things. It's a big package stuff just to do, or it was a certain package from there just to do the renaming. Now that brought in a whole other dependency that could easily break something if you were in the development chain that they're only using one tiny bit of. I mean, fortunately in 4.1 they did remove it and they said, look, optionally you can include it, which I think is the best way. But it's that kind of thing of like, I want this one function, but I have to download this whole, library and understand it if it goes wrong, because I'm sending something to a client, and if the client, brings me up at 1 a.m. saying it's broken, I can't go to these people. These people are anonymous online. I have to fix it myself, and you do. And I think, as Lewis is being responsible, we're saying, well, the best code that I can fix is my own code. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm certainly, I would never criticise Laravel or anything like that, because obviously, it is an amazing piece of technology. But the reason that I've chosen not to use it myself is simply if I want to try and find something in the source code, it's an absolute mission. If I want to try and understand how something's done and learn from it, half the time I can't even find when that bit of code's been written. It's like Ed says, it's been so abstracted. I mean, we tried to, didn't we?
We did
a few weeks back. We tried to find
it's
something.
All dynamic, make it very hard. I think they have in 4.2. I think they're making it easier, and I think in 4.1 they made it a bit easier. But for people, it's kind of this progression where you start off with a bit of PHP. You do that, you get confident. You may play around a bit of classes and stuff, and then you go into a framework like Codeigniter, which is a bit scary at first, but you can kind of get it. There's no magic. It kind of makes sense, and the documentation's very good for it. And then you go on to Laravel, and if people just go and jumping into PHP, like, I want to learn PHP, and they're literally, okay, well, here's Laravel, you have to use Laravel because no one else uses normal PHP anymore, or raw PHP. It's like, well, that's a bit scary.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get into this, quote-unquote, be a Laravel developer.
Yeah.
Because you're not a PHP developer, you're a Laravel developer, in quotes.
Yeah. What do you got, Mike Fraser? What's your take on this?
I think you both hit the nail on the head pretty heavily. Like, I know we all kind of learned PHP in a similar way. Like, you kind of start off doing the basics, doing your hello worlds and what have you, from procedural to object orientated, and then jumping into frameworks. And I think I guess our target audience are people that are new to web development and wanting to get into it and learn everything. I think all the kind of buzzwords and everything they'll see is, you need to learn, like you say, you need to learn Laravel, you need to learn maybe not Codeigniter anymore because it's pretty much becoming obsolete. But I think it's very much the wrong way for a beginning web developer to get into, because otherwise, if you can actually get a grasp of it, then you do get very much pigeonholed into being a Laravel developer rather than being a PHP developer. And if you're a truly good PHP developer, then you can work out what you need to from any of the frameworks. Whereas if you kind of just specialize yourself in say Laravel, you're shoehorned into Laravel in the second that the industry decides, actually, no, Laravel's not the in thing anymore, let's all go on to this other framework, then you're back to square one again.
And you kind of, it's the same thing with like the PHP. It's like, I'm a Laravel developer. Oh, that's a Laravel thing. It's like, well, actually, no, because if you knew the PHP behind it, that was just a PHP thing. And that's the whole jQuery JavaScript thing where people get confused with what it is. But it's because they've just learned Laravel, so they think, that must be a Laravel, like the colon, you've got session colon get. Oh, colon, that must be a Laravel thing. They don't understand that, it's a PHP static class or something.
Yeah.
Static method, that kind of thing.
I think there seems to be quite a lot of, what's the word, maybe elitism or something like that with some of these things where it doesn't always seem like the lesser experienced developers get taken into account with some of these projects. And thankfully, there are guys out there like Jeffrey Way who puts a hell of a lot of work into trying to make things more understandable for the beginner developers.
And like we were saying at the weekend we were having a chat, there does seem to be like a bit of an in crowd of these prominent developers who are all using the same technologies, so they're all talking, and these are the vocal ones within the community. So you can be very easily misled into thinking, I want to be a web developer, I have to learn Laravel, or I have to learn this, and I have to learn that. And the point is, you don't. You just need to learn whatever it is that gets the job done at the end of the day for you. And it just seems that
you need to understand the code that you're working with, I think, is the crux of it. And maybe it's a progression thing. Maybe when you do get that far down the stage of learning, that you are just kind of happier to use something like that. But I mean, I definitely don't feel that way myself. But I seem to be in a bit of a minority, possibly.
I don't think you are at all. I see this in two different ways. Part of me thinks, okay, when I get into my car and I go to drive my car, I have no clue what's going on underneath the bonnet. I don't understand how the car works. I don't know the first thing about cars, but I know how to drive a car, and that fulfills my purpose pretty much. Now, okay, in programming, you can say the same thing, and certainly when you've been doing it for a few years, I think a good library works on the basis that if it's got good documentation, all you have to look at is I can call this method, it gives me this, I give it this, and it returns me that. And I love that. I like that modularity. But in this particular debate, I agree with Lou. And I mean, to be honest, I've not looked at the Laravel code base, so I'm not specifically picking out Laravel here. Please don't think I am. But in order to use a framework, if you're a web developer, I do actually, even though this goes against everything I've just said, I do think it's important that you understand what's going on underneath the hood. I just do think it's important. And
but it's like a mechanic, though, isn't it? Because we're kind of the mechanic of the web, so we should know.
We should know, exactly. That's where the example of the getting in the car kind of falls down. You're right, and we do this as our profession.
Oh no, it was a good analogy, though. I did like.
But the thing is, we are expected to repair these things if they go wrong. We don't have a mechanic to go to.
Precisely.
So if we're deploying a web, exactly, and that's the difference, isn't it?
That's it. We are the mechanic, and
yeah. And
this is what it all comes down to with me. Like, how confident am I in if something breaks in a live project and suddenly I've got to fix it? How confident am I with what I'm working with?
But it's shipping quick code, isn't it? You see.
Yeah, that's the other side of the fence.
Become confident and you understand the fact, and they really are beneficial. But it's that kind of confidence factor, and shipping quick code is obviously we don't like doing it, but we do have to do it sometimes. Let's be honest, and some of the code we write we don't enjoy, we don't like, and sometimes using a plugin that is bigger than what it needs to be when it gets the job done is what you will use. But the right way to do learning, I think, is by doing it and actually learning it, not by just by using all these abstractions, which are frameworks and stuff, to actually get the job done. Is by actually learning, because this is the thing, people get confused. Oh, what is $_get? Because they're so used to maybe using Laravel with input : get or something.
If you're using a framework, you'll never see
exactly, and there's reasons why you wouldn't want to use it. Get, but then people need to learn those reasons.
Yeah,
I still think people need to learn them themselves instead of me or someone else or one of us going, "Oh yeah, that's a bad thing to do. Don't do it." Well, I kind of like seeing why it doesn't work, if that makes sense, because then
that's the bit that you learn from.
Yeah, that's it. Your own experiences, and yeah.
I'd like to take this conversation a slightly different angle, if you guys don't mind. But and this might be a little bit controversial and might give me a bit of backlash. But I know we were talking about this the other night, and again, I'm not targeting Laravel or anything like that, because I do like it, and from my experience, like talking to Taylor on Twitter, he seems like a really sound guy, so I'm not attacking him at all. But it does seem to me like there is almost a bit of a Laravel Gestapo type presence on Twitter, where if you dare say anything bad about it or dare say you're using a different framework, that you'll get abuse.
It's painting the industry in such a horrible light now, isn't it?
I think.
So. Even some of the other developers are writing similar things to you, Mike, on there, like, "Oh, what's the latest petty PHP drama this week?" And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean,
why has anyone got time for any of that?
Yeah. Sorry, Ed, what did you say?
I would say it happens in all languages, doesn't it? And this is the thing, isn't it? It's like we all get bored, and we're all like kind of human, really. And I'm sure it happens in other industries and stuff, but it's just trying to work with it, really.
Yeah, I guess so. I just wish that people would be more.
Because it's the in trend, isn't it? It's the hot thing. It's like, oh, Ruby's the hot thing, Node's the hot thing, Go's the hot thing. All these things. Oh, Ruby on Rails is the hot thing, and it's buzzwords. People don't want to employ. Well, I hope they do. People don't want to employ a PHP developer. No, they want to employ a Laravel developer. because the person who's selling and buying the product may have seen like the latest .NET magazine that has a thing on Laravel, and they're like, well, on Laravel, I don't care if it's in PHP. No, I want Laravel.
Yeah, but they might not even know. They might just think it is Laravel.
That's it. This is the thing, and you know, people. I just hope that people who come into the industry don't think like that, or you know, can learn another way. You know, the way we learn. But that's another thing with PHP, where it's becoming such a bigger thing that it was, and I feel kind of sad about that, because I do kind of feel sometimes a language runs its course. You have like, there's no point in bringing a language up and bringing it, you know, is kind of, you know, adding bits on and stuff and hodgepodging it. You know, sometimes, okay, I'm going to have to move on and use maybe Python or Ruby, or maybe I'll move on and use Java, or maybe I'll, you know, I've learned PHP, but now I'm working in more of an industry where it needs Java, I'm going to learn Java. And, you know, I mean, there are, you know, PHP does really well with stuff like OO and stuff, but it makes things more confusing, like autoloading and stuff like this. And it's kind of like, I think, there's a language for each tool. There's a reason why there's so many languages. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why there's so many languages, because, you know, everyone has their own favourite, and, you know, tabs versus spaces debate, and all that, spaces versus tabs debate, and etc. But it's like, you know, I'm starting to learn and get away a bit from PHP, because I'm like, well, you know, Scala or something does it a bit better in certain cases, because it was able to do it different, you know? And it's kind of just adding on to a language that I learned and loved because it was simple and I was able to get the job done. And I really don't want people to get away from that and have to write a ridiculously confusing, you know, page just to get echo hello world.
Yeah, completely agree.
Getting back to like one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, just sort of mentioned it, and it's related to this, is so let's say we have Joe Blogs, who's literally just decided he wants to get into PHP, and all his friends are saying, oh yeah, use Laravel. What should he be doing? What should be his first resource? What should be the first thing he does?
Well, we can't say W3 schools.
Yeah, no, I was just doing W3 schools. I honestly think .NET, Shoots Plus.
Do you mean, you know, what kind of learning path go down, Mike, or what tools should they be?
I think that's what I'm getting at. And, you know, in the whole debate, you know, should they start off with procedural, or should they go like...
Yeah, I reckon they should try and get at least 10 websites under their belt in procedural.
Is it possible to dive straight in with OO PHP for an absolute beginner?
If you've had no background in any other language?
Yeah.
No. I remember doing procedural. I was doing... what was it? I was doing Pascal and stuff with procedural, and then OO only came to me when I was doing Java at uni. I mean, I think it's good to learn simple functions and stuff first, and you can still use them, and, you know, and I mean, C, you know, it's not OO, it has its place still.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, and I think that's the trouble, isn't it? It's like 0 to 100, and it's just like, well, you know, there's got to be an in-between, and I do think the trouble is, as you say, and I'm sure, you know, this is where we're getting to, is like, okay, so say then you hire a junior and they know a bit of PHP. It's like, well, then you need them to be developing stuff, so you put them on a Laravel project. So you expect them to understand Laravel, but they still don't understand the basics of PHP.
I just find it interesting because, you know, if you were learning Java, say you'd never played with any programming language before and you were going to learn Java, you would start by learning OO, because it's an object-oriented language.
You pick up a book that had it all in, the OO, yeah.
So why is PHP different?
Because I think it's the shipping stuff, you know, it's more about the fact that there's not an academic, it's more, we're getting a job done. You know, we all have our jobs here and we're all wanting to get a job done, and it's that kind of, well, I want to make a website, how do I make a website? Not, oh, I love programming, I love OO, and then, you know, oh, this can solve this problem. It's more, we have the problem that we need to solve, oh, this is how we do it. Yeah. Kind of thing. So it's kind of like, you know, and you pick up bits and bobs online and stuff, and there's far less of a structured way of learning. I mean, you do have web courses, but not to the same extent as in the Java world, you know, where you would have proper courses, structured courses at universities and college.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike, go on.
No, you go, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just browsing through the internet and I'm just finding post after post here, all saying the same thing. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't reinvent the wheel. And I think it's ludicrous. Like all these people saying, don't reinvent the wheel. Why waste your time writing something that someone else has already written? and people are giving this as genuine advice. I can't. It's bizarre.
I do think it has its place, but I do agree with when you're learning something. I know I'm like this. If I'm learning something, I want to understand it. And
Doesn't
I've
programming
got the
become
confidence.
boring as well, though, if you're doing that all the time? Isn't it just you're just literally not regurgitating? That's a horrible word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're just doing the same thing again and again, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I mean, but again, it can have its benefits because it's like, oh well, I object relational mapper. I mean, I played around with making my own one, back in the day, but now Eloquent's amazing, so I'm definitely going to use Eloquent. Now, I don't know how it's actually implemented now, but I'm sure I'm confident enough in my skills to say maybe give me a couple of hours and I'll have an idea, or I'll be able to go online and debug it and with other people's help and stuff. But that's because then I've built my own. I understand and I think maybe actually it's more not only implementation but also the design and understanding at a high level what's going on. Because this is another thing. When we were doing this PHP, simple PHP, everything was on that one page. Now we've got many tabs open with many pages. We're very Java in that way. Each class has its own own file and stuff. So it's very hard to get an image, like an idea in your head, conceptualizing of what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fraser, I'm interested to ask you actually, because you've used Silverstripe. I know me, Lou, and Ed, we've all used Kali-Niter and Laravel, but is it Silverstripe? Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
How's it fare? I mean, compared to those two, I mean, in terms of what you need to know before you can pick that up?
Well, to be honest, Silverstripe was my first ever kind of foray into OO and into any kind of framework. And I went over to New Zealand a couple of years back and then basically said, oh, yeah, I'm a web developer, and managed to land myself a job with a web development company. And then, to be honest, I didn't really have my head in the game. Like, I wasn't following what was going on in the industry very much. So the whole idea of frameworks and OO and stuff was not even on my radar.
Yeah.
So I kind of sold myself to this company as a web developer, and luckily they gave me the job. And then I turned up on the first day of work and it's like, right, yeah, so this is what you build this in Silverstripe. They were like, oh yeah, it's okay if you want to take a couple of days to get your head around this framework kind of thing, assuming that I already knew frameworks. And I looked at it and I didn't have a clue. Like it was horrific. And I literally I kind of like went there all kind of confident, like, yeah, I've been a web developer for however many number of years and stuff. And then it was the biggest like shock that I've ever had to the system in terms of my career. It was like I know nothing. I felt like a 3-year-old girl in like just been thrown into a swimming pool. But it was pretty horrific. But I battled with it, and they were very good. They were very patient with me. And luckily, one day something just clicked, and it all kind of came to. But I still use Silverstripe quite a lot in my freelance work. It's a really nice thing. It comes with a CMS already attached to it. You can get it independent of the CMS, or they've got a CMS that bolts onto it as well. And it's just a really, really quick and nice way of getting sites out there, to be honest with you. And it's a lot. It doesn't have the kind of the complications that Laravel has, and it's just a really nice, quick way of putting simple websites, which are the ones that I like doing for freelance because I've got a full-time job anyway. So really, the only kind of freelance work that I do want to take on is just stuff where it is a simple website, kind of knock it out in a couple of weeks and hand it over to them, and then that's that. And it's absolutely perfect for what I use it for.
Nice. Yeah, it looks pretty good actually.
I think before anyone should start looking at like the major frameworks, they really should take a lot of time studying first just how MVC works. I mean, once you've grasped that, then you can probably adopt most frameworks fairly easily. But if you don't even know that in the first place, then I definitely, once that, I mean, I think that's probably where I went wrong. I think I tried to start using some of these frameworks before I properly understood how MVC worked, and then the moment I did understand how MVC worked, it just clicked straight away.
The trouble is there, it's like kind of scary again, isn't it? Because you're like saying PHP and MVC, and people may think, hang on, is MVC another language?
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing, and it's really hard, isn't it, to say what to learn and like how. And I do think procedural probably is the best way to learn first.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah, I mean, as I guess we'll be wrapping up in a minute. So I guess the thing that we really want to say to the listeners, especially people who are real beginners and listening to this podcast, is that I think we would all agree that don't worry about a framework to start off with. Don't try and run before you can walk. Take your time to learn the fundamentals, the basics, and then build up to using a framework if you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, and you can ship good code. Well, you can ship websites. You can ship stuff just using straight, clean, bog standard PHP.
There are plenty of people out there doing that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when a user looks at a website, they don't see what framework the person built it in. At the end of the day, they see the site that's rendered on the screen.
And that's the client as well. If it's not broken, if it works, that's it. They don't mind.
Yeah.
And to be controversial, the guys doing that are arguably more competent developers, possibly. Because everything is handwritten, homemade, as it were.
Yeah. Definitely. Did anyone else have anything profound they wanted to say before we wrapped up? Or? I hope we've answered more questions.
This isn't certainly not a character assassination of Laravel. I hope if Taylor or any of those guys
never going to stop using it.
Yeah, no, exactly. If they do hear this, all I personally am trying to say is that it's possibly not particularly easy to understand for a lower level developer. So that's all. That's just trying to be constructive. I
think that's not a bad word, Mia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they might be aware of that, or they might have chosen to build it that way. So if so, fair enough.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, we've just hit the hour mark, and I think we'll have to decide off air what we're going to do next week, because there was quite a few things. Like I say, we discussed at our social event. I have to try and remember what they were, but
have a good picture of you and Fraser on the Twitter, don't we?
Yeah. I like the fact it looks like we're on top of a skyscraper. I really like that. It looks like we're sat outside.
Yeah, it's sort of China, doesn't it?
But
down like Hong Kong or something. But yeah, we were talking about, again, kind of maybe scheduling this in as a once a week thing, because we realise that we've been a little bit kind of sporadic with it, kind of putting one out whenever we can put it in. But we are going to try and get there to a stage where we're going to be putting them out once every week at an allotted day. But we still need to decide on what the day is going to be. Just in case anyone out there is subscribing and then sitting there wondering when updates are going to come,
by all means, contact us and ask. Let's hear from some of you.
We did hear from one, didn't we? Which was very nice.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. That was really nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. We really would welcome more feedback as well, positive or negative, because we want to do a good podcast for you guys. And like Fraser says, we're going to try and do more weekly, and we are here long term. We're going to produce many more of these, and we're also going to try and take it back a step and just try and have a look at some more basic procedural code, and we'll have to think about how we're going to do that, the best way to do it in a podcast. But we'll either be continuing this kind of debate next week, or we'll be looking at some more sort of beginner programming. So thanks for listening, guys, and we'll be back next week.
All right, see you later.